What up, peeps? Okay, so random reviews here. Okay, so I just saw Wakanda Forever and it was boring. Whew. Now, I thought the first one was kind of decent, not great, but definitely overrated, and I know that my fellow brothers and sisters are going to probably tar and feather me for saying that, but I'm just being honest. The first one did not blow me away at all. With the exception of the performances, the film was just another Marvel film in the conveyor belt of Marvel movies being released pre-Infinity War. So I can understand why they chose to make this film the way they did after Chadwick Boseman's death, but I personally felt like they just had unsure priorities of how to get to point A to point B in their movie. This movie is almost 3 hours long and the plot just stretches. There is no reason for this movie to be 160 whatever minutes, and the reason that is because Ryan Coogler thought that it would be a great idea to edit this movie badly. There are some seriously badly executed exposition scenes, and the culprits of that are what really kills this movie's pacing. I mean, why are we cutting back and forth to characters explaining their backstory or explaining what just happened while the movie's already vomiting exposition already in the first place? Just keep one sequence going and have the character just talk over it instead of jarringly cutting back and freaking forth. There's no reason, Coogler. No reason you had to do that. So aside from that, the special effects seem pretty dated, especially near the third act. A lot of CGI and visual effects look pretty terrible, especially some of the green screen that looked pretty obvious. It's like Coogler did nothing to improve the effects of the previous film because those scenes just looked pretty bad. The fight choreography was shockingly underwhelming, and what really irks me in a fight scene is these strange urges to cut and completely disorient the flow of the fight. It's at this moment you could tell that the choreography is pretty garbage, which is interesting because the Russo brothers managed to accomplish making sleek, clarified fight choreography in their Marvel films, and Coogler also did a pretty well done one-take fight scene in the first Creed film, and I was hoping he would at least incorporate that in this movie. But no, it almost feels that this wasn't directed by Coogler, and my theory is that maybe he didn't have that same degree of creative control that he had in the first film. I have my suspicions that Marvel might have put him on a leash this time. So as far as the plot is concerned, this movie could have completed its job in making it a little over 2 hours and not just 2 hours and 40 freaking minutes. That was completely uncalled for. The movie just lacked focus and threw so many political and economic elements to the movie that didn't even really need that much emphasis. If the plot condensed itself to focus on maybe one or two things, this movie probably would have been a lot leaner. Instead, we have to watch crap like a 19-year-old college girl who created an Iron Man suit in her garage, and also being able to create a vibranium tracker in her garage too. And it was at this moment I felt like she needed her own freaking movie instead of making Ironheart a side character in an instant, because her whole arc just felt ridiculously rushed and unearned. And speaking of unearned, while Shuri was less annoying in this film, she lacked depth. It felt as if she was being dragged through her own movie rather than going through natural character progression. And while I credit the film with not just doing a blatant gender swap of her being the new Black Panther, but the film brings this up once that she developed this serum, the same serum that T'Challa took in the first film, and we don't really see much of it until the second act, or at least near the end of the second act. I mean, we never really see her train physically, we never see her struggle to even fully develop the liquid. We don't know why she's even doing this in the first place. I mean, did she aspire to be the Black Panther? Did she train off screen to be the Black Panther? Did she plan to pass this on to someone else? Like, what was her plan when recreating this stuff? It feels like a whole portion of this movie is missing when we see her internalization of if she's ready to take this role as the Black Panther or not. I understand recasting the original Black Panther is out of the question, but I feel the potential was there to make it feel like it was an earned moment for her. I mean, does the drink give you the power to fight? Because T'Challa seemed like he was doing just fine in Civil War before he got it. I don't know, it's just a mess. The villain Namor was boring. There was controversy that this movie is racist because instead of Atlanteans, they made Namor and his people Aztec origins. I'm not sure exactly why Coogler went that route. It doesn't seem necessary, but I feel like they did this because audience members will be confused about which Atlantis this is. I mean, it's Marvel's Atlantis and not DC, so there's a difference. Maybe I feel the visual presentation of the Talocons, if I'm pronouncing that right, could have been a little more subtle because I can understand what people are saying now. I don't think Coogler's intent was to be racist, but to kind of portray them as a society that's deep within their Aztec origins, much like the Wakandans are. But the Wakandans still had modernized versions of their African clothing and attire, so why didn't they just do that with the Aztecs instead? But also, Namor is mad that the vibranium is revealed to the world, but why didn't he trace it back to when Captain America's shield was also developed with vibranium by like Tony's dad? I mean, did he not know this, especially since he's lived a long time from what the movie told us? And why is he waging war against Wakanda and trying to kill a 19-year-old girl, as if that'll change the extensive resources that the UN and the government now have to even look for vibranium? But why didn't he just release spies all over the place? He seems pretty mad that Wakanda revealed the existence of the vibranium, but he didn't plan ahead of time after T'Challa revealed the existence of vibranium to the world. I mean, he should have just been like, oh I can't trust anybody now. But even if he didn't trust anyone, why wouldn't he trust the Wakandans, especially after everything that went down in Infinity War and in Endgame? I mean, if you think about it, forming an alliance with them would make a lot more sense than throwing their aggressions at the Wakandans, especially since the Wakandans are also aware that they made a mistake revealing vibranium to the world because they're getting attacked every 5 minutes. So basically, this conflict is happening for no reason at all. There's no consequences whatsoever. Nothing matters because there's nothing to resolve at all. They don't really emphasize the extensive consequences of the reveal of vibranium. They're bringing up ones that people are actually looking for, and then they never talk about it again except for when the plot needs them to, so it can be a catalyst to make more do bad guy things. Overall, this movie wasn't good. I mean, I didn't expect much anyway, so I went in with this thing open-minded, but it's still unenthused, and I feel the 2-hour and 40-minute runtime is just way too long for a plot like this, and I'm only going to give it 2 stars. See it if you want. Maybe some people will like it more than me, but personally, I just wasn't having a good time watching it. And the next movie I watched was a movie that I saw some time ago, but never got a chance to actually review it, and that's Wendell and Wild, and it wasn't very good either. This was directed by Henry Selick, known for The Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, which is actually my favorite film of his. Now for this one, I didn't really like the art style very much at first, specifically the character models, because I felt it just looked too exaggerated, and exaggerated character models sometimes just don't do it for me because they feel less human with facial aspects that get lost in the choices for how they're modeled. But I will say that I did get used to it over time, and I started to appreciate it more. On a visual level, it's impressive, and I'm glad the art of stop motion filmmaking isn't dead, because I really hope that we keep getting more films like this of this type in the future. But what really killed this movie is, you guessed it, it's the plot. The plot was pretty atrocious because there's way too many things happening. We have the 2 demons trying to chase their goals, we have the main character trying to achieve what she wants, we have the priest trying to get what he wants, we have the evil couple trying to do what they need to do, and the film keeps shifting back and forth to all these plot points, and it's completely devoid of focus, which is strange because Coraline was very focused and it had quite a degree of characters. So yeah, I'm not really sure what happened here. I feel this has to do with Jordan Peele, who wrote the script. Now, I don't mean to knock Jordan Peele. He has shown talent as a filmmaker, specifically as a writer and a director, but at the same time, after Get Out, he seemed to not know what he wants to focus on when it comes to ideas. This applies to Us. Nope was more of an improvement, but then he reverted back to disjointed priorities with this movie. I won't spoil the film, but it's very much all over the place, and it gets to the point where these plot points, since characters need to be stupid when the plot needs them to be, or the characters are just rushed in the final act because we need to get this movie going. The main character was completely unlikable and unempathic. I was straining to connect with her struggles. I mean, she just treats everyone else like they're the bad guy, and I can understand that she's supposed to be sort of standoffish and edgy, but this was just the wrong way to do it. She just looked pissed all the time. The voice acting, however, was pretty solid. It was good to see Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key having fun with their roles, but there were really 2 great standouts, and that was the always talented James Hong and Sam Zillela as Raul. I feel I'd rather see a movie with Raul as the main character than the Cat character, but it's too late because Cat's in the lead of this movie. Maybe they can do a sequel or a spinoff, because I think Raul was just a much better character and much more enjoyable. I feel I'd rather see a movie with Raul than Cat, because at least Cat was a lot more entertaining. It's just that Cat was just put into a bad script. I mean, overall, see this one if you want. I thought it was very disappointing and messy. Great animation and art style, but nothing much more in between, and I'm also going to give this 2 stars. And now, after being negative towards 2 movies, let me go ahead and give a positive recommendation of a movie that I really love. This is a movie from 2012, and it's called Like Someone in Love, directed by Abbas Kiarostami, whose name I'm pronouncing pretty wrong, I'm sure. And he is a pretty talented director, and he's also a pretty talented proficient linguist. He's actually an Iranian director, and this whole movie is in Japanese. Now, this is one of those not for everyone kind of movies, as it's deliberately paced slowly and methodically. It's hard to explain, but it's definitely unconventional. So if this is the kind of movie that you won't really feel engaged in, I suggest watching Certified Copy so that you can kind of get the gist of his movies and his style. This movie is just so intricate and enigmatic. The cinematography is perfect and very effective, with every shot feeling perfectly framed. It's crazy how well Kiarostami shows such professionalism in his direction. The plot is very straightforward, but there are subtleties and intentionally unclear elements. It's visual storytelling at its finest. So yeah, this movie won't be for everybody, but I personally love it, so give it a watch whenever you get the chance. If you do buy this movie, hurry up up and get it on Amazon before it runs out of stock again, because this movie took me forever to look for and order. So yep, that's all I have right now. I'm still working on some projects that are going to take me some time, but hopefully you all have a good week. I will see you in the future. Peace out and love y'all.